good afternoon, and good evening to all the listeners of the Good Anime Palette podcast. We're going to be bringing a new episode today to you. I am one of your co-hosts, Will, and as always, I have my other co-host, Jason, here with me. How are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing all right. This is episode 15.
Yeah.
You keep forgetting to name the numbered episodes.
Well, it says in the Spotify or Apple or whatever player you use, right? So.
Well, yeah, that's because I put it in there.
Yeah. So, do we have to say it, or can they also? Are you assuming that our listeners can't read?
No.
Wow, way to start the episode by demeaning the ability of literacy of our listeners. But you don't really need to listen or read all that much, because today we're going to be talking about some real heavy shit. So just sit back, consume whatever you can. But before we get into it, we're going to be going over a couple things that we've been watching over the course of this season.
But Will, before that, just how have you been, man?
I'm all right, man. I'm doing good. Do you want to talk about the weather today?
Yeah. Exactly. You knew exactly what I was
It's
going.
sunny as hell today. It's great. But that also means that in a couple of days it's going to be raining.
Then, like last week, they said oh, it's gonna rain every day, and then it turns out that only like one day.
Well, it wasn't so much that it rained that one day. It was more like the other days it did rain, but it was like a drizzle, and that counts as rain. Any level of precipitation counts as rain.
It does count as rain.
Yeah. So, but then it's like that's it. So it technically did rain every day. We just weren't. We just didn't notice it. But what happened then is because of the fact that it's still really, really wet outside. Like the level of humidity is so high.
It's a sauna. Do you like going to saunas? If you do, just step outside to the streets of Hong Kong and you'll get it for free.
It's basically whenever I tell people it's like 90 to 95% like humidity. They aren't you just walking in water at that point? It's like, yeah, you pretty much are.
A lot of people in the U.S. was like, oh, it's like 98% humidity. And they all look at me like in Hong Kong. So they were like, what does 98% even mean? I'm like, I don't really know. That's just the way it is, really.
So here's the thing. When I first went to university over in Santa Barbara, right, it was 50% humidity. And I was dying. Like my skin was cracking, my lips were ripping. It was just so dry, and everyone was wondering what the hell was wrong with me. And it turns out that for them, 50% is extremely humid already. So I have no idea how they're going to survive when they come over to this part of the world.
If they ever.
I mean, for them, it's like if they come over, it's like they go to Thailand, Indonesia, which is even more humid than Hong Kong. So get ready for it. Anyways, let's jump straight into what we've been watching. So the season is still ongoing, right? In terms of the summer anime releases. I think a few new things have come up. I think one of them Jason has been catching up on. Two of them. So one of them actually came up fairly recently. The other one was
last week.
Okay, so there you go. The other one that I've been watching has been going on for about 6 weeks now. So we'll get started. Jason, do you want to roll in the first show that you've been watching?
Yeah, so I have been watching 2 seasonal shows among all the other seasonals that I've been keeping up with. One of the two is The Great Jahi Will Not Be Defeated, which I mentioned before. It is airing right now. It has listed as 20 episodes to start, which is already quite a bit. So it's like a current and a half, basically. It's produced by Silverlink, and it's based on a manga. It is basically a reverse isekai. So if you like Devil's a Part-Timer, it is essentially that, which is to say, Jahi is this woman who is a demon and is second in command in the underworld. Then a magical girl or hero shows up, destroys the kingdom, and she gets sent into a different world, which is our world. So it's a reverse isekai. And she has to find a job, has to try to rebuild her kingdom, tries to make ends meet.
Are you sure this is not just Devil's a Part-Timer?
As I said, it's basically a lesser version of Devil's a Part-Timer.
I mean, it's not so much a lesser version. It is just Devil's a Part-Timer.
Except it's dudes, and this is mostly women.
Right. So gender reversal.
Yes. It's okay. It is the animation and the color and everything is very competently done, but I wouldn't say there's anything outstanding. The OP and ED, you're gonna get a kick out of this. I really don't like the OP and ED. It's very poppy, but in a way that it's very cutesy, and I don't like it. So actually, I skip it all the time, which is a rare thing for me.
You really have to not like this shit in order for you to hit the skip intro.
It's just not great music. Anyways, so they're slowly introducing more characters. I only watched 3 episodes, and the jokes are okay. You get like the landlady who is always chasing Jahi for rent. You get like the bar boss who is Jahi's superior, and then as of right now, there is one, like, I guess, minion general that shows up called Druj, Druj, and she is the highlight of the show because she is like the "oh, Jahi, please step on me" kind of thing, and then she's also like everything that Jahi does, regardless if it is a blunder or not, she's like, "Oh my god, Jahi-sama, you're so good. Oh, of course you predicted this. Oh, you tripped the alarm just so that you can test it, right?" And then Jahi, being the prideful person that she is like, yeah, totally, exactly, right? Just making sure, you're on top of things when she's like totally not on top of anything. So the OP has more characters that show up, so I'm assuming it would just be more of like the generals or minions of the underworld. And I think they might even show the magical girl that destroyed the underworld. And hopefully it'll be more interesting. The bar boss is also pretty funny too, because she's like this very like bubbly, big-breasted, big sister kind of person. And Jahi's trying to explain to her like all these underworld stuff, and like, you need mana crystals. You need mana crystals to get power. And she's like, "Oh, that's so cute. That's like the jewelry on your neck." And she's like, No, but this is like, I can like topple you, human. It's like, "Oh, that's so cute." That kind of thing.
Right.
I'll continue watching it just so that I can see.
How many episodes are out right now?
3. I watched all 3.
Right.
I think so once they introduce a bit more characters, I will see if it's worth following or not.
Right. Well, as Jason said, 20 episodes coming out for this.
It's a lot
series.
of episodes.
Right. Is it all like 20 episodes in one shot? Or
No. It's not Netflix. It's like it's just a seasonal.
But I mean, it's more like, are they doing like 10 episodes break, 10 episodes?
I don't think so.
Okay.
So I think it will be like a returning show for part of
over the course of 20 weeks, basically.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, that's my guess.
Right. And it's streaming on Crunchyroll. So go ahead and watch it over there, as you mentioned. The show that I've been watching is also streaming on Crunchyroll. It's been running for about 6 weeks now because I'm on episode 6. The show is, let me just bring it up because it's a long title. Heian Sedai no Idaten Tachi. Or in English, the Iraten Deities Know Only Peace. So it is it's a fun time. It's a really, really fun show. Currently it's streaming on Crunchyroll. I don't remember how many episodes are supposed to come out for it, but it's a MAPPA production. And you know me, I'm a fucking huge MAPPA fan, so I knew damn well that when this thing came out, despite the busy schedule I've had over the past month or two, that I had to pick it up at some point. And so thankful that I managed to pick it up.
Okay, so there is 11 episodes announced.
Right. So
and it's based on a manga.
Yeah. So the manga has been running for about 3 years. It's a relatively young manga. Was serialized in Hakusensha's seinen manga, Young Animal. So this is obviously like a different kind of beast. The fact that it was a seinen manga, it's not like when you look at it from the periphery, it is very much like a shonen kind of anime, but the themes, the characters, the art, the violence, it's definitely a bit more than just PG-13. It's definitely up in terms of the edgy meter for me. So what's the show about? Essentially, it's a show. Oh God, I'm doing the whole
I know.
thing.
I couldn't.
So
wow.
basically,
So what is the show about? Will
the show, which I'm about to talk about, it's about essentially gods, deities, who exist in this world, and they've been fighting against demons and devils over the course of however many centuries.
so they don't know only peace.
That's in the beginning, right? In the before time. So then the 4 major deities then turn to the young one named Rin. So she's essentially the granddaughter of one of the main gods at the time. The gods say, we're going to form a seal, and we're going to lock all the demons behind the seal. But in order to make sure it doesn't break, the 4 of us are going to go to the other side and maintain the seal, whilst you stand on the side of the earth, like where the humans are, and you're going to maintain the seal from there.
Okay, so it's like a barrier or like a seal, and then okay, you guard this side, I guard the other side, so make sure
Exactly.
nothing goes in or out.
And
Period.
basically, then it's like if anything comes out from our side, you are going to be here to reseal the door. You are here to make sure and to fend off all the monsters that come through. And she's like, I'm so young, I have no idea what's going on. I'm scared. Don't do this to me. Fast forward 800 years, and there's
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's like fast forward 800 years.
Yeah, I mean these are gods, right? They're omnipotent. They're like, they're immortal. They're all knowing, all seeing.
No, it's just really funny that you kind of like, oh, she's just a little girl. This Rin girl is the granddaughter.
You know what the funny thing is? That's actually how it happens in the anime. This is literally the first episode, like the first 5 minutes. So then
Okay, I've not seen a single minute, so
Yeah.
I'm purely like
Speculating.
Yeah.
But it's like literally, as I'm saying, it is verbatim what happens in the show. So 800 years later, she's basically been training and honing her skills to make sure that when the monsters do come through, the demons, and like if they do break in and breach the seal, that she's ready. Now, as she's training, the reason why gods exist is because, well, gods are ethereal creatures. They're not necessarily they're manifested from the prayers and the beliefs and essentially the wishes of humans. They are only formed by the thoughts and prayers of mortals who basically need divine intervention. They need help, salvation, or whatever ulterior motive they have. And so then small little pockets of light start popping on the earth, and Rin, the main character, goes around and basically manifests a new god from that power. Because basically,
What?
Yeah, because those things are just literally like latent balls of prayer, balls of hope. But they don't take physical form because, again, this is just a manifestation of the mortal's prayers and thoughts. Only when another ethereal creature, a deity, comes over and gives it form does it become a god. And that's what happens. That's how you create new gods in this world. It doesn't sound all that crazy. I don't know why you're kind of like, nah.
No, I'm just thinking like, oh, it's this ball of light. I'm just gonna grab this ball of light. Boom, new god born.
Yeah, you literally pull a god out of it. Because it's just because like you're thinking about a god, but you don't ever give it form or function. You don't give it like a face. You don't give it any like characteristics. So then when you do have another deity of that kind of level, go in and actually give it form. Boom, there you go. They take after the image of whoever pulls them out as well.
Okay,
So,
so here's the very important question. When there were promotional material for this show, when we were going over seasonal stuff like ages ago, the poster for this looked very
risque, revealing,
lewd,
yeah,
right?
It's very much that.
Oh, really?
It's very much that.
Okay.
Because just as there are, saints, people of light, there's also darkness. And when we talk about darkness, there's, of course, you got to talk about the different sins, right?
And it's
Lust
not
being
just
one
like
of
all
them.
Jahi-samas out there, right?
Yeah.
It's not like the underworld has been toppled over.
Yeah. So then basically what happens is something's gone awry.
Okay.
All of a sudden, like there's these humans, they're going around digging holes and craters among the earth, and then they actually find a demon that's been laying dormant for 800 years.
Okay.
And they're wondering, wait, hold on a second. Like, first of all, how do humans know about the existence of these demons? They've been out of existence for like the past however many centuries. Then it turns out, hey, maybe one of these humans, quote unquote, is more than just a human. Thus, then we find out that there actually is a demon society that's been living under the guise of a robot who is giving them human form.
Okay.
Human form.
Mm-hmm. Robots.
I can't go any further on because afterwards it's just becomes spoilers, right?
Okay.
So they're now human. There are now demons that roam the earth, but under the guise of humans. So it's up to the gods to essentially fight back and make sure that peace remains on earth. But at the same time, it's like one of those things where it's like, because I'm omnipotent and all-seeing, I'm also non-interventional. I'm not going to go in and meddle with the business of humans. That's why, like, even when you have gods and saints and angels and all that, wars and famine and plagues still exist, right? Because there's only so much God can do before they get too involved with the meddlings of humans on Earth.
Is there like a... Actually, this might be spoiler, but is there like kind of like a neutral force that like, oh, if you intervenes too much, it like crosses the line, then something bad happens?
No, at that point, I haven't gone that far where like the gods are kind of like trying to like find that line of morality where like it's like how much can I intervene before it's like I'm meddling too much with the humans, or like I'm just gonna stay the fuck away and let them kill themselves because I mean like just because I'm a god doesn't mean I have to save everyone. They only want me to save them, but I don't have to do it. What I really like about the show, though, besides the action and the gore and all the violence and everything, the opening is really goddamn good. It's like electro rock. It's very psychedelic. It's a wonderful 1 minute 30 seconds. It's again outside of certain shows. This is one of the few that I actually watch the opening from beginning to end. I don't hit the skip button. I don't fast forward anything from beginning to end. All 25 minutes.
So you know that like the world has gone upside down because Will is listening to the OP and ED of an anime series, and I, Jason, have decided not to listen to an OP and ED of an anime series.
Yeah, something.
Well, what's going on with the balance?
The order of the world is upside down. But again, the show is fucking fantastic.
Is it very colorful?
It's extremely colorful. It's like it's almost like there are parts where it's kind of like cell shading / pastel colors. It's a very vibrant show. The music is wonderful. The voice acting is pretty damn good too. It strikes a good balance of just of action, of comedy, of suspense, of lewdness. The lewdness actually is a little bit more when the episodes start developing more.
No wonder the art style looks very reminiscent of Kobayashi Dragon Maid.
Is it also?
It's made by the same creator.
There you go.
So, I also heard from a mutual friend of ours that this show has some action, but actually not as much as you would think. Is that true?
It's not the central theme.
Right.
It's not the main focus, because even though there are fights, they don't last more than like 30 to maybe 40 seconds. The main thing is just talking about like the existence of gods, the existence of demons, and the plight between the sides in terms of trying to eliminate the other.
So it's like political, philosophical.
Yes.
With like fights here and there.
And lots of big boobs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is one of the big boobs an evil seductress demon?
Yes. That's the main character you see on the poster.
Okay, there you go.
Right. There's also parts where it's like I'll have to tell you this later on off air. But it's very meta. It's very in your face about certain things. At the moment, I have to give it like anywhere between a 7 and an 8. It's leading more towards an 8, but it depends on how the other episodes roll out. I'm having a lot of fun watching. The show so far.
So for Jahi, I think it's like a 7 and might not go any beyond that.
But is it because of how apparently like similar it is to Devil's a Part-Timer that you're using that as like a comparison?
Because so that's your thoughts on the Ibadan deities no only peace. So going back to Jahi, which is I now understand why you wanted to talk about this as your second thing, because it actually goes off of Jahi-sama pretty well. But it is not that it is that similar to Devil's a Part-Timer. I mean, it's just a reverse isekai, so you should know like what reverse isekai
just
is.
Basically like the theme itself, the central theme is that's where similarity is, but like outside of that, that's where the similarity ends.
Right, because you watched Devil's a Part-Timer, so there is, let's just say, action and romance involved, right?
Lots of it. It's a fucking funny show.
And Jahi-sama has 0 romance so far and has 0 action so far, pretty much.
It's just pure comedy.
It's just pure comedy, character interactions, Jahi trying to make it out.
I think with shows like that where like you're banking on the comedy to carry the show, it can be quite tough. Like
it is very tough.
Like the comedy itself has to be really on point. It's not like shows where like like Gintama, right, where like the comedy is legendary, and that's why even when there are episodes without much action, it still carries itself really really well.
Right. So you're gonna get like Druge, who's like always gonna be like the masochist. You're always going to get Jahi, who's super prideful. You're always going to get the bar lady boss, who is super dense, but like super caring at the same time. You're going to get the landlady that is like super violent. So far, these are so trope stereotypical that for 3 episodes, they're fine. But if you're telling me on episode 12 that you would get more characters, but they're all just like these archetypes, I don't know if I would want to continue watching it.
I mean, a total of 20 episodes, right?
And 20 is a lot of episodes, really.
Yeah. I mean, like most shows we watch now, like are usually announced for like occur, whether it's 11, 12, or 13 episodes, right? Some even like are more like shorter. Like some could be like for example, like Way of House Husband, right? I think it was like 8 episodes. Each one was like 15 minutes.
No, I think it was like 6.
Even shorter, yeah. But it was like 15 minutes, right? So
I mean, Eat It on Deities is 11. I mean, still like occur.
that's
but,
still occur.
But
Right?
it's like one less. But yeah, I understand what you're saying.
It's like when you watch that one thing, like the thing that makes the show itself, and it might not vibe all that well for you, knowing that it's done within 11 or 12 episodes, that's good for you. But when you like still can't really find out like where Jahi's going, or if it's like they're just gonna stick with like the comedy tropes for like 20 episodes, yeah, like your patience wears thin at that point.
Okay, so the final anime that I have watched,
Also streaming on Crunchyroll.
also streaming exclusively on Crunchyroll. So Will and I did episode 4 of the Good Anime Pal podcast, which we talked about Crunchyroll specifically and their exclusives.
Spoiler alerts, they're not all that great.
1 or 2 are okay. Fly Me to the Moon is okay. Inspector is okay.
Some would say that God of High School is okay.
I think God of High School is...
Oh, actually, Tower of God. Tower of God's good.
Tower of God is good. God of High School is just okay.
Just
like,
okay.
just okay. So...
Less said about, what was the other one? The vampire one?
Oh, Noblesse.
Yeah.
Noblesse.
Yeah, you remembered it. There you go.
Yeah, I know.
Bad enough, though. It was
Yeah.
right.
So Will and I do not have a very good impression of Crunchyroll originals because, X-Arm is great, I guess.
Wonderful platform if you want to watch like a ton of anime, right? It is an anime platform, so like definitely a go-to.
Yep.
But like
And
you said,
now
right?
that and Funimation pretty much has everything.
Yeah.
So,
But like you said, right? Originals, that's not really what they've been known for, right?
yeah. So when they announced that they are going to do an anime original exclusive with Adult Swim, so it's like a Crunchyroll Adult Swim co-production, and Production IG is going to do it, you're like, okay, but like, whatever. It's Fina Pirate Princess. I watched 2 episodes. There was a 2-episode premiere, which premiered on August 14th, and regular broadcasting in Japan will begin in October 2021. I forgot if, when they say October 21, does that mean that they only aired the 2 episodes and that's it? Or they will continue airing it, and then in Japan, they will broadcast it in October 2021. So I'll find the answer to that eventually if they release more episodes or not. As I said, it's an anime original and done by Production IG. I have to say, though, this might be, if not one of the best, is the best Crunchyroll exclusive I have seen already. It is about a girl called Fina who has white hair, and she, as a girl, what was it? Like there was like an attack on a ship that her father and like her childhood friend was at, and then they were getting attacked, and then she kind of like drifted away to safety, and they're like, oh, save yourself. And then she grew up on this island, and she was supposed to be like married off or whatever, and then her past comes back and rescues her, and she has to try to find the thing that she was on the voyage with her father.
Oh, Fina's voiced by one of my favorite character VAs who did the voice for a character in Bungo Stray Dogs.
Which one?
Her name is Ichio.
Let me see the face.
It's this one, the blonde that's part of the Port Mafia.
Oh yeah, I like her too. I mean, I didn't see a lot of Bungo Stray Dogs, but it was good.
I really like Bungo Stray Dogs. That's for another day, though.
Yeah, that's another day. So the comedy here is actually quite a bit, and it's done really well. The animation is almost like Violet Evergarden levels of vividness.
Well, it's Production IG, right? Actually, to be fair, like the 3 shows we're talking about, right? Like the studios, for example, like Jahi, Silverlink, you got Iraten, which is Mappa, and then Fina, Production IG. These are all good studios.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, Silverlink, of course, it's like, maybe punching above its weight, but like when watching Jahi, it looked good, right?
It looked fine.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't say it is as good as Fina Pirate Princess, not even close. But I wouldn't say it's bad. No way.
For a name like a name like Silverlink, it did a good job.
It did fine.
Yeah.
Very admirable. So Fina Pirate Princess is really good. they haven't, obviously it's 2 episodes, so they just set out on a journey. So you don't really know what it's kind of about yet. But the animation is very fluid, the action scenes are very good, the comedy is done very well as well. And the OP is sung by Juna, who did the OP for one of the Kageguruis and Ancient Magus Bride, and she is very talented. And I really like the OP.
So this one you watched?
Oh, hell
Okay,
yeah.
good.
And also
Order is restored.
Oh yeah, also OP is just the OP art. Everything about it. You should watch like the first episode or like half of it just so that you can see like, wow, this is a Crunchyroll exclusive? No fucking way. And guess what? It is. So I will definitely continue watching to see where it goes.
Yeah, I mean the shows that we mentioned, right? They're all like mid to high 7s on Mal. So generally, people are enjoying what they're seeing with these 3 shows.
I mean, when I saw the score for Fina Pirate Princess, I was like very, very surprised. So I was like, I might as well check it out. And
because it's just one of those things where like you see a Crunchyroll, any kind of exclusive, whether it's on Netflix or Crunchyroll, you see it and you're immediately thinking it's probably going to be like a high 6, low 7. Like it's going to be enjoyable, but it's going to be like the reception can be quite panned.
Yeah, it's not going to be anime of the year material. No way.
But I mean, it's good so far.
It looks like anime of the year material in terms of aesthetics,
Right.
but in terms of storyline and action and whatever is yet to be seen. But it looks very promising.
Well, you kind of have everything, right? I mean, the fact that you're enjoying it so far, that's a really good start.
A very, very good start, I have to say.
Yeah.
So you should watch it.
Yeah, I think all the other stuff we've been watching, it's like, I mean, I'm still watching Realist. It's still good, but not much else to update you on that. So what we're going to do then is, when we do pick up a new show or a new series in 2 weeks' time, we'll tell you a bit more about those shows.
I mean, unless it's for research, which we will talk about in the main discussion topic.
Absolutely. But before we get into that, we have to bring you our bi-weekly news section. So, yeah. Welcome back to the studio. This is William Wong here, along with Jason Fung.
Yeah, hey, what's up?
Hot off the press, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 6 Stone Ocean Anime reveals promo video, cast, staff, December debut on Netflix worldwide.
That is the part that is crazy to me.
Yeah.
The debut on Netflix in December.
Right? But like the longest time, we were wondering if there ever was going to be a Stone Ocean anime. Like, we knew there would be one, but we didn't think the announcements were going to be April, and then literally 4 months later, oh, it's going to be coming out in 4 months' time on Netflix.
I mean, you said several times throughout the existence of this podcast, it's like, yeah, end of 2022,
Yeah,
minimum.
It's going to be like October 2022, like ready for fall, maybe even winter. No. It's literally like in one season. In one season, it's going to be coming out.
Yeah.
Now, I remember when talking to you about this as well. This is like off air when we were talking. You were asking me like, what are my thoughts on like the anime, and I was like, well, I mean, like I've caught up with everything. I've read like most of the manga, and I really enjoy what I've seen. But at the same time, it's like it's been so long that maybe like the hype's not quite there anymore. And then the trailer dropped, and then I watched it, and then I found out who all the VAs are. They managed to get the OG Jotaro Kujo, the main JoJo, the third JoJo, back for his role. Yeah, I'm back on the hype train. I'm still like a massive JoJo fan.
I don't know much about JoJo other than through osmosis, but the fact that it features a female, I think, is a big deal, right?
It's a very different storyline because of the fact that like it's very much only female characters. There's occasional male characters
because it takes place in a prison, right?
A women's prison,
right?
Yeah. So this is going to be following the daughter, the daughter of Jotaro Kujo. Her name is Jolene Kujo, also known as JoJo.
Well, how about we didn't put it in news, but how about the announcement of the new part of JoJo and the name? So for those who, since Will is making a big sigh, I will fill in the blanks here. In addition to announcing the anime of Stone Ocean, JoJo Part 6, they announced JoJo Part 9?
For the manga, yeah.
And it's called...
So basically when Araki is done with his break, usually his breaks are anywhere from 4 to 6 months. I hope it takes a little bit longer, just for his own health, but the guy is dedicated to his craft. So whenever he's back ready to work, we should be expecting the first volume of JoJo Part 9 to come out maybe in the middle of next year.
Middle of next year.
He's probably going to take a 4-month break and then pump out a bunch of like volumes. Because each volume only has like 4 chapters.
Okay. All right. But quick thing here. Humor me for a sec, Will. What is the first part called?
Okay. Phantom Blood.
Second part?
Battle Tendency.
Third part?
Stardust Crusaders.
Fourth part?
Diamonds Unbreakable.
Fifth part?
Golden Wind.
Sixth part?
Stone Ocean.
Seventh part?
Steel Ball Run.
Eighth part?
JoJo Leon.
And hold on, drum roll. The amazing ninth part to JoJo reportedly is now officially, right?
Yeah.
Called
JoJo Lands.
We've done it, guys.
I don't get it. Like all the names themselves are like weird and wacky and obscure, or like they literally tell you straight up like what the show is about. This one is just like, hey, it's JoJo Lands. Hey, welcome back. Hey, it's the land of the JoJos. Ah,
it's an amusement park.
I don't know why I'm doing a New York accent.
I don't know, like a Jersey accent. I have no idea. But so JoJo,
look at all these JoJos walking you. Hey, I don't get it.
Hey, say hi to your ma for me.
Yeah, well, your ma and your pa. Yeah.
So I don't know what JoJo Lands is about, but needless to say, that name is so unoriginal and just so bland when you compare to just the aesthetics of JoJo. I don't even know the storylines, but just the aesthetics and the memes, and you're telling me that Araki's just like, yeah, let's just call it JoJo Lands, guys.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, I mean, you're the boss, but you're the creator, but also why?
Again, I'm not going to question Araki because like he has blessed me with so much good content over the years. And that's the thing too with the JoJo storyline. JoJo's part 1 through to part 6 is one universe, and then part 7 and part 8 is another universe. So
is that a spoiler?
No, it's not really a spoiler. What then people need to know then is part 9 going to be a continuation of that world, or is it going to be a new world? Because JoJo Land kind of gives me the impression that like, is this going to be a new timeline? Is this going to be like a merger of the two timelines? Like, are we going to see a multiverse JoJo kind of thing?
I mean, it's the land of the JoJos,
which actually would be pretty cool. I would like to see that. But hey, let's give Araki a break, and then we'll find out next year what he's been cracking up in the kitchen.
So if Will couldn't get ecstatic about anime news lately, there is another piece of anime news that has been
Bro, it's been happy. It's
been happy days.
It's been a happy month.
So, Will, would you do the honors?
Y'all already know how much I love Tatami Galaxy.
No, Will, please tell me how much you love. No, please don't.
I really love Tatami Galaxy.
I mean, I think it's really good, too.
It's my favorite anime of all time. So, what's better than just Tatami Galaxy? Well, how about the sequel novel, Tatami Time Machine Blues, getting officially adapted for an anime? Now, the news before was that it would be adapted into a manga. No. It would be translated into English. That was the main bit of news, I think, a month or two ago. This new, hot the press, is the sequel to my favorite anime of all time is now coming in anime form. And I could not be more excited.
And it's directed not by Masaki Yuasa, who did Tatami Galaxy, but almost like his protege, who not only did the One Punch Man Season 1, Space Dandy, but also did, airing right now, Sunny Boy, which is Shingo Natsume. And he'll be directing it in collaboration with Science Saru, which is Yuasa's studio.
Yeah, I think this is going to be one of those things where now Eun Choi, the new director, the new head of Science Saru, gets to flex her muscles and really pick up, as a producer, as a head producer, who she wants on her projects, being able to collaborate with the different directors that are on offer. This is wonderful because the fact that like she's really like grinded her teeth in the industry, made a lot of connections, and people like praise her for her work. So like there's a strong level of respect.
And not just that, but the person now helming it seems to be someone that not only has involvement with Yuasa and probably Eun Choi herself, but is pretty competent. I mean, if you're telling me the person who did Sunny Boy, which I really like, and you seem to quite like, if you're telling me that this person also did Season 1 of One Punch Man, I'll be like, yeah, bro, good choice.
The guy also did the key animation for Honey and Clover.
Yeah.
And I also did the storyboard for the opening of Haikyuu.
Yeah. And then and
he's done a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, he also did the key animation for Gurren Lagann. He also did a key animation for Naruto Shippuden. He did the storyboard for Night Short Walk on Girl. So he's got a lot of interaction, a lot of experience working with Young Choi, working with Science Saru. So
and this guy knows his shit. Basically.
It was just a no-brainer. It's just one of those things. I think like Masaki Yuasa generally wanted to create like a culture where it's like rather than cycling through all these different directors, all these different staff, he likes to retain the same people because it's easier for you to share your image, share your dreams with the people who also share similar views and thoughts on how anime should be done, and also at the same time give them the creative freedom to do what they want. The fact that this guy has worked on so many different kinds of shows, and you also have someone like Eun Choi overseeing the whole production, like this could be good.
And it's just funny that, like, what was it? Before news of this anime, we were like, why would they all of a sudden announce, like, a translation of the sequel to Atomic Galaxy? And then now we're like, oh, because they kind of knew.
Yeah, this makes sense. They're going to roll out the anime, and then now it's like, hey, you like the anime? Well, we got this book you might want to check out. Oh, just in time. I had translated in English. Here you go.
So here is the storyline, which I think is just fantastic. The protagonist's troublemaking friend, Onzu, gets the student apartment's only air conditioner remote control wet, breaking it on a certain midsummer day. The students wonder what to do about the situation for the remainder of the summer and make plans with Akashi. And that is it. That is it of the synopsis. And I'm just like, that is such a Tatami Galaxy kind of plot synopsis.
It's super like, where is this thing going to go? It's so like just boring and obscure, but when you watch the episodes play out, it's just a fucking joyride. I'm excited for this.
Yeah.
Now the world of adaptations as well. There's going to be more stuff. There's always going to be more adaptations coming out. One of which you pretty much was like, this is going to be adapted, no doubt. We're talking about the manga Blue Lock.
That is correct. Blue Lock will be getting the soccer manga will be getting a TV anime by 8-Bit Studios in 2022. I have said quite a bit about Blue Lock, but it is essentially a sports anime mixed with sports manga mixed with Hunger Games. It's soccer Hunger Games.
It is a good manga. I really did like the manga. Not just because I'm a soccer fan, but the fact that the manga's very well written, very well drawn as well. So no doubt, now getting an animation, anime adaptation for it, I'm down.
I called it so hard. I was like, "There's just no way it's not going to get adapted." And guess what? It did. So hey, there you go.
I'm not too familiar with the studio 8-Bit though. The only thing I know is that they did Slime, the Slime Isekai, I think. Outside of that, I don't. Oh, they also did Fruits of Crisaya.
I like Fruits of Crisaya. Yeah, I think it's okay.
Yeah. So yeah, let's just see where this goes. I mean, it's not going to be coming out for another year anyway. So let them work on their shit, and then we'll come back to hopefully it'll meet our expectations.
The manga I think is published in English by Kodansha.
Yeah,
and I think the 6th volume, a new volume just got released like last week or something. So I'm gonna be reading it. So.
Would you say that your expectations are high? Are you high expectations, Jason Fung, right now for Blue Lock? It doesn't matter whether you have high expectations or not, because you're never going to have as high expectations as the next bit of news that we have for the most Asian high expectations Asian dad of all time.
Okay, so we're Asian, right, Will?
Yeah, no doubt, yeah.
So then therefore...
Last I checked, I am Asian, yeah.
So therefore, we have Asian parents, right?
So, of course, when you have Asian parents, and as the stereotype goes, expectations tend to be high for their children. Now, I was kind of lucky. I didn't have too high expectation parents, but they always wanted me to achieve greater things. And hopefully, Mom and Dad, hopefully I'm doing well enough for you.
Did you win, Dad?
Yeah.
Mom, son,
no,
whatever?
No, Dad, no. Anyways, the person of focus here, it's not just any Asian dad. Oh, no. This is probably one of the most acclaimed high expectations Asian dads of all time.
In anime and manga.
In media in general.
Oh, in media, yeah.
Holy crap.
In Japan,
this guy has high expectations. Shit.
Who is this person, Will?
His name
Yes.
is motherfucking Hayao Miyazaki. Well, it doesn't have motherfucking in it, but it's Mr. Hayao Miyazaki, also known as the Ghibli guy.
Also known as the Godfather, right?
Yeah. You don't talk about Ghibli without this Miyazaki. The Hayao.
I mean, the fact that like so many people I know that don't care or watch any anime would have watched Spirited Away or Princess Mononoke,
Totoro, Kiki's Kiki's Bizarre Adventure,
Kiki's Delivery Service.
I'm sorry, the whole JoJo news thing kind of rocked me. Oh man,
What JoJo, Kiki, like that? Did you make that kind of connection? Is that how it is?
That's what I said. Kiki's Bizarre Adventure.
I know, right?
It's not. This Kiki's Delivery Service.
Okay, so for
it's the same amount of syllables, right?
So why are we mentioning like sons, daughters, and their parents and Asian expectations? Is because for context, before Hayao Miyazaki retired, at least for the first time, his son Goro Miyazaki took over, and he was, I think, before his father stepped down, he was still working for the company, but in relatively high rank position, I think. There is a very infamous YouTube clip, I'm sure you can find it, where they are premiering his Goro Miyazaki's first theatrical work to be released to the world. And his father, Hayao, showed up, as you would expect. And as it was showing in the theater, how do you say this? Hayao walks out midway through,
goes to the lobby,
just looks fucking dejected.
Looks to the lobby. He was fidgeting with like something in his bag the whole time before he walked out. And he walks out, goes to the lobby, pulls a cigarette out, lights it up, and then he said, "That was our son out there. He's not ready."
Oh, it's like he has much to learn or something.
He's not ready to be a man. Man, like what he actually said was so fucking rough. Like, damn, like I don't want to be his son. Goddamn. Literally, what he said was, "I saw my own child. He hasn't become an adult. That's all." Then he pauses for a couple seconds and he said, "It's good that he made one movie. With that, he should stop."
Oh, shit. I didn't even know it was that brutal.
Yeah, dude, like standards are goddamn high with this man. And rightly so, right? He's made so many classics throughout like our lifetimes, right? Like, we're talking about Princess Mononoke, Porco Rosso, Kiki, Totoro, Howl's Moving Castle, Spirited Away. Like, come on, man. Like this guy has achieved legendary status over 50 years, 50, 60 years. However, when was the first? Whatever.
I don't know.
He's been around for a long time.
So anyways, fast forward to 6 days from today, August 27th, the theatrical opening of Earwig and the Witch, which is the newest film by Goro Miyazaki. And his father has watched it, and his father had praised his son for like probably the first time in his entire life.
Literally, before he even like started praising, the first thing he said was, "I thought Goro wouldn't measure up." Like he was like, I kind of already knew that my son was not going to do anything good, but his fighting spirit exceeded my expectations, and I think the result was quite interesting.
I think his use of CG was good. It's quite a feat. He also added that he thought that the film has gathered a rather strong staff. So you're just take the praise. But on the other hand, it's like the most like, I thought you wouldn't make it, but you kind of did. So good on you. It's just like, what the fuck? Will is just shaking his head.
I'm happy for Goro, but at the same time, it's like, God damn it, man! Like, this is your son here, man. Like, it's not like he like broke the law, got arrested, or like really brought shame to the family. Come on, man. He just made one not so great movie.
No, he made a bunch.
Okay, fine. That's true. Yeah.
Almost to the point where
what were you gonna do?
Hayao had to come out of retirement.
Yeah, but like, what are you gonna do, man? Like, you follow your father's footsteps, but then you see how big these footsteps are. It's kind of tough to follow up that kind of act, you know. But hey, look, I'm glad that he finally got some praise from Papa Miyazaki.
And maybe
Papa.
Yeah, and maybe Earwig and the Witch would be good because I'll have to be very honest. I have not seen pretty much any of his son's work because I just not heard good things about it.
I haven't actually watched much Ghibli in a while, so I mean, like I kind of tuned out of it. But hey, any good news for the Miyazaki family is good news for everyone.
Hey, we always want people to succeed, and
Of
we
course.
want good anime out there, right? So
Absolutely, and like in the end, it's like we always talk about how whenever you do anything, right, the worst critic you'll ever face is yourself. This is a case where no, that's not true. The worst critic you're gonna have is your dad
and his legacy.
Damn, like you've watched the video too, right? Where he's just sitting in the lobby, he's just
Dude, he was like slunched over and
dragging his cigarette, just
yeah, and then there was like what was
he's
it?
not ready.
There was like all these like camera crew that's just like trying to like figure out what's going on, and then he said what he said, and everyone's just like, there's like I felt like there was this pause where everyone was like, oh no, really? Oh God, oh no, oh God. And like for your son to be like imagine the son at that time, and your father walks out. You might think like, oh, hey, maybe he's going to the bathroom or something, and then 10 minutes later he doesn't come back, 15 minutes later he doesn't come back, and then you find out after the fact, after the premiere has ended.
He talks so much shit about you.
And the only thing you can do is be like, yeah, okay.
Hold back the tears.
God, it's so sad.
I'm sorry, Papa. I have failed you once again.
Goro, you did good, though.
Yeah, congratulations, man.
Like, you did good.
It doesn't matter how bad you're doing in the box office as long as you got your dad's support. I'm happy for you.
What if it's just like, what if it tanks in the box office and he's just like, I don't care. My dad praised me. It's all that matters.
Well, it's ranked 11th right now in the United States. It's not bad. Not bad for like a Japanese-produced, Japanese animated show. It is streaming on HBO Max, so if you want to catch it, it's streaming in English too, dubbed. So,
On February 5th.
All you HBO Max people, 6 months later, you'll get your shit. Man, I actually haven't watched anything dubbed in a while. Yeah.
I think I watched some things, like one or two things dubbed, but then I like just switched it on Netflix and then just switched back.
I think for me, it's like as a kid, like no matter what, like I can't watch Dragon Ball Z in anything but Cantonese. I can't watch Pokemon in anything but in English. I can't watch anything. I can't watch Digimon in anything but English.
I agree with Pokemon for me. I agree with Dragon Ball. I also think that Doraemon, I can't. It can't be Cantonese. It can't be in Japanese. It has to be in Cantonese.
Same. Like you like the theme song Cantonese, the voice actors Cantonese. Like that. Oh man. Like this is just an aside too. Like the voice actor for however long he was doing the job for Doraemon in Hong Kong was legendary.
Yeah.
God damn, he was just like linchpin within the anime dubbing industry. Oh God, I miss him.
All right, so that is the end of the first half of this episode.
This is the easy part.
Yeah, so the Great Jahi will not be defeated. Fina, Pirate Princess, and the Itazan deities know only peace.
Itaten.
Itatens. Gomen nasai.
Yes.
God, is this like
Wakanai?
Is this like Higarashi all over again instead of Higu?
Ugh. But I would say you should check out at least the opening for Itaten, and I'll do the same for Fina.
Yeah. Okay. Fine.
Yeah.
No problem.
Because the show itself as well, it's like I think you'll probably dig it for a bit, but there's going to be other things coming out this season as well as coming out in the next season. Oh God, there's going to be a lot of anime we need to watch.
Isn't that always the case?
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know. Maybe in 2 weeks' time it'll be different. Spoiler alert, it won't be. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back with a very crunchy episode. So, grab some water, hydrate. The sun's out wherever you are. If there's no sun out, go and get dehydrated so you can hydrate again. And then we'll catch up with you after the break.
Later. This is the Good Anime Palette podcast. I'm your co-host Jason. I'm joined here by Will. That break was that lunch was pretty heavy, huh?
Jesus, the food coma has kicked in. I've got the itis for sure.
Yeah, me too. I'm trying my best to focus because we really need to focus.
But that was a damn good lunch.
But have you thought about what if you can't eat?
Dude, okay.
Ever.
What kind of segue is that?
Okay, so our main discussion topic today is actually quite a weird one. We have a bunch of different types, I guess, of
this one is clearly a big topic, but it's not as clear as you might think. It's a little bit more on the subtle end as opposed to this is a full blown topic, a full blown theme.
Right. Like for example, our previous episodes we talk about a certain genre, like when we did with horror or when we did with sports, or we talk about a certain studio like we did with Madhouse or a Crunchyroll or even our latest most recent episode where we talk about Netflix. But we also this season and for future want to talk about certain episodes that have a certain theme or a common thread between them. And today is basically one of the first of these themed episodes, which the theme this time is about robots and androids in anime and manga.
Now, we should throw out a disclaimer first off, right? When we're talking about robots and androids, should we go through the definition of the different types of robots and androids?
So with these themed episodes and a bunch of other types of these episodes going forward, we're going to have to put some ground rules or disclaimers down before we proceed onwards.
Yeah, otherwise it's just an open field and you're going to get lost, right? So we're going to try and focus the discussion so that we're not straying and touching literally every single part of the discussion.
So, robots and androids appear in all sorts of mediums, live action or animated in this case. And furthermore, it comes to no surprise that anything that involves robots and androids, certain common threads or certain common topics in regards to things like technology or emotions and souls and stuff, which we will get into, have also been challenged or explored in live action mediums as well. So the stuff that we say here is definitely not going to be revolutionary or so nuanced that other people have not made same conclusions before.
Yeah, but we want to weigh in our own perspective, our own taste and flair, and in terms of our exposure to robots and androids, because it might be pertaining to a specific theme or a topic. It might be in terms of specific characteristics and interactions within the cast of a certain series. The main thing we wanted to talk about is the use and the portrayal of robots and androids and how those portrayals kind of affected us and how in terms of our perception of what it means to be a robot, what it means to be an android in a specific series.
And in this case, instead of live action, as the Good Anime Palette podcast, the name implies, it will be about in the realm of anime and manga.
Right.
So these episodes mainly serve two purposes, which Will kind of touched on, which is the first thing is that it creates an opportunity for us to talk about these various different themes, in this case, robots and androids. It also allows us to recommend anime and manga that implements these subjects or these topics.
Right, like Gundam, right? Gundam are robots?
Just hold on a sec, Will.
Well, they're not?
So, if you're ever interested, for example, which kind of started this in the first place, which was I wonder what kind of anime and manga feature robots heavily or androids. And then we thought that some people might want to know that. So that's how this came about, basically. So, now with that all out of the way, and as Will alluded to earlier...
Mobile Suit Gundam, right? Iron-Blooded Orphans?
Okay.
Mazinger Z?
All right, so let's begin. The first thing that we have to do is define what robots and androids are. And when it comes to this sort of area, and in particularly with anime and manga, there are kind of four, I would say four, right, Will? You say four?
Four main types.
There is robots, there is androids, there is cyborgs, and the one that is more unique to anime and manga, mechas. So sometimes some people interchange them, but we won't make that mistake. And we will explain that by defining what these are. So, of course, your definition may vary, but for us, a robot is a machine that's being able to replicate certain human movements and functions automatically and possibly autonomously. But I would say that's the most basic form.
Yeah. So imagine like a car assembly line. Back in the day, you were like, working with Ford, you'd have hundreds of thousands of people working in one whole line, either fitting tires, screwing nuts and bolts, putting car frames on the chassis and all that. Now it's all been replaced by robotic arms, like automated processes that are able to put together a car, but not necessarily using the same amounts of human power, just actually done through the pure use of a robotic process.
Now, the android part, as at least pertains to science fiction, is a robot with a human appearance. So that is, I guess, what would a lot of people see as, I can't, the saying of like, I can't tell this person if they are a robot or not, which is like the whole premise of Blade Runner. That is an android. Now, the third term, cyborgs, is a fictional or hypothetical person whose physical abilities exceed beyond normal human limitations by having mechanical elements built into their body. So they are originally humans, and then they have some sort of mechanized mechanical component that allows them to do something beyond the capabilities that was originally intended by the, I would guess, like the pure body before the alteration.
Yeah, basically beyond like what's possible for a natural human being.
Like in Mortal Kombat, Jax has metal arms, and he can use it to like break stuff that is impossible for a normal human arm to break, for example.
Right. Now that would be completely different from like Terminator, where, Arnie is just a pure robot android. He's like not a human to begin with. He was literally just made to be a robot with the appearance of a human. So that would be an android.
Right. So the last thing, which is mostly pertains to anime and manga.
Right. Like when we talk robots, this is probably what most people gravitate towards.
It's the term mecha. And it refers to both the scientific idea and science fiction genre that centers on giant robots or machines, also known as mechs, which are controlled by people. And sometimes these mechs are typically depicted as humanoid mobile robots.
Right. So we're talking things like the robots from Gundam. Like we're talking about Code Geass,
the robots from Power Rangers.
Exactly.
Things like that, where it by itself they look like a robot, but in order for it to move and do certain functions, they have to be piloted, or like in Evangelion, they have to be piloted by a human being inside or whatever, or like through like a proxy or something. So these are the four terms that we kind of came to that kind of encompasses, broadly speaking, what we're trying to talk about.
And if we were to talk about mechas and all that, right, that in itself is its own genre.
It's too vast and too complex for us to be able to fit that in even in one episode, I feel.
Yeah.
So we are not even going to bother with mechas. We're also trying our best to not bother with cyborgs as well.
There may be one or two, but generally it lends into the discussion, right? We'll be mainly focusing on the first two, which is robots and androids.
Right. So, now, Will, what is your earliest personal experience when it comes to robots and androids in anime and manga?
So, actually, before anime and manga, yeah, I think it was basically Power Rangers. That was like my first exposure. But then growing up, starting to watch some Dragon Ball Z, you would have androids in the show. But I think in terms of like exposures, it was only really later on in life that like I started seeing more and more like robots and androids in anime. I saw a lot in like live actions. I saw a lot like we're talking like Star Wars, we're talking like Power Rangers, we're talking about like Kamen Rider and all that. That would be like my main exposure.
But that's
robots.
more like Sentai and mechas, right?
But yeah, so that would be like that's like the robot sort of like encompassing everything. When it comes to specifically to anime, it's kind of hard to really remember because the stuff I watched as a kid was like Pokemon, Digimon, I guess there are like android mons in Digimon, but that wasn't necessarily like the main focus of the show, right? There were just side characters that you come across throughout the episodes.
So for me personally, similar with you, Will, my earliest memories of robots and androids were the androids from Dragon Ball Z when I was, like single digit years old. And at the time, it never really occurred to me that they were, different than the human counterparts. Of course, they would like break and stuff like that. And then clearly it would be like a machine. But I guess I was too young for it to register in my mind the significance that it is an android.
Right? You probably just thought like, oh, because they're robots, they're made of metal, it means they're harder to defeat, they're more resilient. And like beyond that, like there's not much else that goes into why they exist, what the purpose of having a robot or an android in this series is.
Yeah. And another show that I watched ages ago, like when I was like watching Dragon Ball Z, like single digits, and I don't remember like that much about it. And I also think it's almost impossible to find nowadays, is a series called Saber Marionette J, which is one of the first harem episodes. It's basically a dude, dense MC, surrounded by androids who are female, and like it's like a rom-com / action kind of thing. And I remember that, and also being a bit perplexed as to sort of the significance of these female characters, which for all intents and purposes just looks like female humans, but have these weird like gimmicks, if you will. So it wasn't until like later on did I realize the significance of robots and androids when I got into science fiction of the live action variety, like like Terminator or like Bicentennial Man and all that stuff. So
yeah, I think it's around that time when you had like your Terminators, you had your Bicentennials, you had your Blade Runners. That was also, if you were to find like the comparisons to what was coming out in anime at the time, it was a lot of like cyberpunk, science fiction, dystopian future, that kind of stuff. But then slowly and surely you start seeing more and more of these shows that implement more like artificial intelligence, more robotics, more cyborgs and androids. So I think like, for example, like you talk about the 2000s, right? Ghost in the Shell. Even like the movie itself came out in the 1990s, right? 1999?
Oh crap. Something like that, yeah.
Because it came before like, the internet, right?
Maybe.
So it should have been 98, 99.
I mean, yeah, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it was. How do I say this?
I think for me, like if I was to watch that kind of stuff as a kid, it would just fly over my head. Like I would not be able to understand the significance and the reason as to why these robots exist, other than, damn, that's a badass robot. That android is sick. That's a really hard opponent or adversary to take down. That's probably what my child brain would at most be able to process. Not knowing that like they lent into different themes, like is society within the series trying to achieve techno singularity? Are people trying to advocate for rights and usage of robots and saying that they have a place in society, whilst there are people who fear that they'll take over society and all that? Those kind of things I never really like was able to process, just because I just wanted to see people fight people. I just wanted to see some action and adventure as a kid.
You just want to see explosions, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm of the same, right? So now, when it comes to machines, right? So Will mentioned about the cyberpunk sort of boom, like with Akira, for example, as well, right?
Yeah.
One of the quintessential cyberpunk anime films. It's just interesting that there was that boom back then, because I think that was just like the hot thing, like the thing to talk about, the thing to invest in that genre. And of course, as you might expect, anything that involves robots and androids, it's usually safe to say it is science fiction, cyberpunk related.
Very much so, yeah.
But that is not to say they're all like that. So throughout this episode, we won't not only talk about themes, but talk about a bunch of anime series and manga series that we have consumed with the theme of robots and androids in mind. And as we said, we're ignoring cyborgs, and we're ignoring mechas for the most part.
As best we can.
As best we can. they'll overlap for sure. But
I think it's just in the end, right? Like when you want to just use the whole umbrella term of robotics in anime, all of them fall under that umbrella. But we want to focus on the specific subsections, which is robots and androids. Some cyborgs might make it into the conversation, but that's only because of the fact that sometimes it's hard to tell the difference between a robot and an android and a cyborg.
yes, and sometimes a lot of people would feel that that definition is very semantic and very stupid.
The lines grow thinner and thinner every day.
Right. Now, when it comes to talking about anything related to robotics, whether it is in fiction or even in nonfiction, there is a very almost universally well-known concept called the 3 laws of robotics. I even learned that when I was doing my master's in biomedical sciences, because we dealt with, I had a lesson in surgical robots, and the 3 laws of robotics came up, and ethics of that came up. So the 3 laws of robotics is a set of rules devised by a science fiction writer called Isaac Asimov. And the rules were introduced in his 1942 short story, Runaround, which was then included in the 1950 collection, I, Robot, which then, if that rings a bell, is it was a quite decent...
It's the Will Smith movie.
It's the Will Smith movie that was actually quite decent.
I quite liked it, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't, like, outstanding, but it was pretty good. And then, obviously, they also have been used here, like, in, like, eons.
Right.
Till to this day.
So what are the 3 laws?
So, the 3 laws... The first law is a robot may not injure a human being or, through inaction, allow a human being to come to harm. The second law is a robot must obey the orders given to it by human beings, except where such orders would conflict with the first law. Then the third and final law is a robot must protect its own existence as long as such protection does not conflict with the first or second law. So basically, robots cannot injure people. Robots must obey people.
Unless the order is to hurt someone.
And then the robot must protect itself unless if it interferes with protecting someone or hurting someone. That's basically it. And this 3 laws, even though it stemmed from a fictitious novel, has been the cornerstone concept for artificial intelligence, robotics in real life, and a lot in fictional media.
I mean, it even exists to this day and will continue for a while, right? Because everything is now being run through robotics and automation, and everyone's like always on board with, these robots will be able to make human lives easier, right? Whether it's assembly lines, whether it's helping to, construct buildings, whether it's to defuse bombs. The main thing and the main argument against the use of robots, and this will come up a lot in our discussion, is what happens when the robots turn on us.
So, exactly. The first thing that always comes to mind when someone orders you or tells you to do something is usually, how can I bend or break that rule? And as you might expect, as our society depends on machinery and automation and artificial intelligence more and more, the fear of these robots violating those core concepts of the 3 laws of robotics is a very common question that a lot of science fiction, in this case anime and manga, even touches on as well.
Yeah. The main thing when it comes to robots, automation, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and all that, essentially we've gone to a stage now where we're able to write enough automation scripts to be able to have robots, have programs self-assess, self-run, and self-improve to the point where things just run flawlessly and automatically. However, it's still limited within the confines of what the original programmer or developer set within the lines of code that it input onto said robot, said program. What we want to talk about specifically is what happens when the program itself breaks free of that human control, where they no longer are adhering to the orders of its human beings, but rather running off of its own cognition, its own sentience, its own freedom of thought.
Now, when there is sentient thought, the next thing that comes to mind is, when it comes to robots and androids, is having a soul or having feelings and emotions. Whether or not these robots and androids have the capacity to ever have human emotions, or are they merely mimicking it or replicating it, or do they genuinely can have that capability?
Yeah, are they just operating according to their function or their mission? Like, is it only as a result of the ones and zeros, the code that has been put in them?
Yeah, or is it because of the way that they look, they smile, but do they actually know what smiling really is? Oh, okay, they do know because we programmed it in there, and they, thought about human society and know that smiling is a positive thing, but, things like that. So, again,
I mean, we have an example for that, right? Like, one of the shows that we've been watching that came out last season, Vivi, Fluorite Eye's Song, like, half the show is just basically robots and androids, all fulfilling their own missions, whether it is to be an amusement park worker, a singer, a cleaner, or just being to do their tasks as laid out. Like, if they're like a self-driving automobile, or if they're selling popcorn, they have an operation that's already built into them, and they have to adhere to that specific function.
Right, but I would say then that is actually quite different than, I guess, what people would consider their ultimate purpose, or their real, quote-unquote, real purpose.
Which is then more further explored in the show itself, right?
Right, they're sentient. Like, oh, can I actually think for myself rather than think of the thing that I am, quote-unquote, supposed to be born to do?
Oh, man, it's like, I'm not sure how much Rick and Morty you've watched before, but one of the...
It's like 3 seasons.
Well, there's like 4 now. I only watched it through 3. Like, where Rick creates the little robot, and the robot's purpose is just to basically pass butter. And
yeah.
And the robot keeps asking, what is my purpose? Really? I just pass butter? Oh my god. And it just has a breakdown.
Yeah.
At that point, that's just like, when the robot themselves like identify what their main purpose is, and you start questioning, is that all I'll ever be like? Is that all I'll ever amount to, or is there anything I can do to break out of the confines of the code that's been put into me? Right? Am I only doing these things because I'm programmed to do, or am I able to serve a greater purpose beyond that?
Now, another thing that would come into play when you incorporate robots and androids past a certain level of sentient and, I guess, complexity is, what is the reaction of the human society at large?
We talked about one of them, which is that humans fear robots will take over.
Right. So that is one. So there's either like partial or full acceptance.
Yeah, there's like a spectrum.
There's a spectrum, right? So there's partial or full acceptance. There is like universally hated, like, for example, in the live action Terminator series, they're pretty much like all machines are bad, or all robots are bad. And then there is like where society in the fictitious work is rather accepted, but there is like a rogue faction of humans that are purists and believe that robots are machines and should not stand as equals with human beings. And as Will said, in Vivi, Fluorite Eye's Song, they also explore that as well. So, and also in like a shit ton of other anime series and manga.
Because there's always going to be naysayers. There's always going to be differing opinions, right? Especially for, it's like, if you were, like let's go back to the Ford assembly line, right? Imagine like you've been building cars your whole life, and all of a sudden you've been told that your job is replaced by a robotic arm, right? You would have certain thoughts and feelings about robots at that point. If you're just the end user, you just buy a car, you don't care. If you can make a car for you not only faster but cheaper, of course I'm going to take that. I'm fine with having robots. But imagine then, like, the reason why you've lost your livelihood, the reason why you lost, in your eyes, your purpose in life is at the hands of a robot. You're going to feel some type of way about having robots exist in your life, right? And that's exactly what happens in Vivi. There's levels of acceptance because, these robots help to make an amusement park run smoothly. But at the same time, the people who don't work at those amusement parks anymore as a result of that, or the people who just feel that there's going to be something terrible that happens as a result of having a society run with robots, they feel they're going to be a society that's going to be run by robots. That would be like the sort of like middle ground acceptance of androids and robots in society.
I think a very common plight or issue that people raise when it comes to dependency on machines is, will there come a point that the machines exceed human expectations and human confines, and therefore do things or make certain decisions that do not benefit humans and human society, which in this case violates the first law of robotics? And in Vivi's case, it just so happens that we're talking about Vivi now. They also kind of touch on that.
I think Vivi's a great example of having robots and androids existing in society, right? Because of the fact that there is like differing levels of acceptance of robots and androids across generations, across people. I mean, the show like literally shows you how certain people are super ecstatic to see a robot, and others that as soon as they see one, they pull a gun.
Right. Now, I think what we're going to do is I'm going to explain one more central theme that Will and I have come across with all these anime and manga. And then we will talk about
the juicy stuff,
which is the anime and manga itself.
What you should watch.
And the last central theme that we sort of gathered, which again is not so enlightening, is love and relationships.
Love, emotions, just basically how robots and humans interact on a more intimate level,
right,
a more personal level.
So it could be robots and robots. It could be robots and humans.
Yeah, it could be human and robots. It could be just pure robosexuality. Whatever it is, we want to sort of dive in a little bit deeper in terms of, can robots actually feel love? Can robots actually be and also give love?
And can the society accept the fact that you could get married or be in a romantic relationship with a being that, quote unquote, is not alive?
Essentially, that's like the other spectrum of like the techno singularity. In terms of technological singularity is when we're talking about robots and androids reaching the same plane of existence as humans, where they can both coexist flawlessly. In this particular case, when we're talking about technological singularity, we're talking about humans, and robots loving and sharing affection for each other without any issues whatsoever.
Because that also comes into play what we discussed earlier about a theme of, does robots have emotions and souls? Because it is implied that if you do not have emotions, you therefore cannot really understand or able to love something.
And I mean, like specifically with androids too, right? Androids were designed to look like humans, function like humans, and also work alongside humans. So if we're talking about,
I mean, robots too, though.
It's robots too, but like robots, specifically with androids, taking the human appearance.
Exactly,
right?
exactly.
That's the thing where it's like you're now like getting into that almost sort of that
uncanny valley. Yeah, exactly. So that is the main central themes that we will be talking about. So the first thing is the 3 laws of robotics and various things violating the 3 laws of robotics. Robots and androids as a living thing with souls, and also, do they have emotions or not? Their ultimate purpose, as in whether or not they can exceed the capabilities in the confines in which it is being programmed to do. And also the acceptance and rejection of androids in society, robots and androids in society. And finally, by accepting them, are you able to have romantic relationships or any form of genuine relationship, either androids with androids, or
basically any ability to sort of receive and reciprocate emotions.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
which is very deep, because some of the shows we've watched, like that's like one like huge theme in terms of, can this robot feel love?
Do you want to start with that one?
Jesus. So should we just talk about Vivi then?
I mean, actually, I thought you were talking about Chobits.
Chobits? Oh, ooh, Chobits is a good one.
Yeah, so let's start with that, since like the love thing we said last, so let's start with that first.
Yeah. So Chobits is, oh man, that's an old manga and anime. Came out in 2006, I think the manga did. No, the anime. Um,
Oh, that's what I was going to do before we recorded. Was I was going to write down all the general info, but I forgot.
it's okay. But, I mean, like, we both took different paths. I mean, I watched Chobits when I was younger, and you read the manga fairly recently.
Right. I didn't finish it, but I was very close to finishing it, basically.
Yeah. I think in terms of the adaptations, it's not bad. I think like they say it's fairly faithful. Of course, there's going to be certain parts of the manga that they take out, like a lot of text and speech and all that, like that stuff. They kind of remove in the anime, but generally you'll be fine either reading or watching because both of them are fully in English.
All right. So first of all, some general info about Chobits. The anime is based off of the manga, so the manga is the source. It is written in 2000 to 2002 by a very famous group of mangakas called Clamp, which is also well known because they're all women. And they have done a multitude of works back then that were super famous, like Cardcaptor Sakura, XXX Holic, Chobits, what was the other one? Clover, X, so these Clamp is a big deal. And as you might have heard in our previous episodes, they are now cooperating with, not cooperating, like working with
Tsubasa Chronicles and XXX Holic, right?
Yeah, I didn't say the Chronicles one though, but yes, XXX Holic. So Clamp is working with, was it Wit Studio for the Grimm Fairy Tales?
Oh yes, I think that's it.
Yeah. So they are still relevant to this day, and Chobits is one of their most well-known series.
It was also done by Early Days Madhouse as well, so it looks decent. Look, from what I remember, and I also
2002 is the anime.
Yeah, not 2006. Yeah, so I recapped some of the episodes, and granted, again, it does look dated. I mean, this anime came out just under 20 years ago, right? 2002. It's now 2021. 19 years. It still looks decent. It still looks pretty good. I'd say that in terms of animation quality, that's not the central focus though. What is the central focus is about a boy and a girl.
So,
a quote unquote girl.
In this setting of Chobits, human society has integrated very well with these androids.
Yeah, this is what you would say is almost peak singularity,
right?
Where everything exists equally
to the point where you can buy them in shops, and there were a multitude of scenes where when they walk around outside, you see a ton of these Persocoms. It's called Persocoms? Pasocoms that are the names for these androids.
Now, there is an issue with these Pasocons. They're really fucking expensive.
Yes.
They're $500,000 yen, which is $5,000 US. And at that point, it's if we were to look in today's prices, inflation, we're looking around anywhere from 8 to 10K, right? We're looking about the price of a secondhand car. And for, the main character, Hideki, he's I think he's not a college student. He's going to cram school. He's trying to get into college, but he's just a country bumpkin.
Right.
He doesn't know anything about Pasocons. He doesn't know anything about life in Tokyo. He literally just came in from rural Japan, and all of a sudden he sees all these robots. Oh, I really, really want one. Everyone's got one, but it's also a whole year's of tuition. It's also a whole year's worth, a whole month's worth of rent. What am I going to do?
Long story short, he finds one in the trash, takes it home, and turns out that this Persocom might be a bit special.
Yeah, it's a little bit damaged.
But it might be special. And the whole manga series and anime talks about mainly romantic love and interactions between humans and humans and Persocoms and Persocoms even.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, we'll just say android in this specific case.
Yeah, okay, androids, yeah.
So, basically an android that's slightly damaged and doesn't probably fully know well its own functions as an android, and then a human character who literally has had no exposure to androids whatsoever, and is just thrown into the world of having to teach and educate and also interact on a daily basis with this robot.
And having it have a much more behind the scenes grander purpose and this huge conspiracy and things and whatnot.
Right, because he essentially is putting his own human emotion and touch into this robot, which has like absolutely no idea what it's supposed to do, what its function is. I mean, for the most part, like for the first couple episodes, like for the longest time, all it said was its name,
Chi.
or it might not even be its name. It was just the sound that it could make, Chi. That's it.
So, without going into how the series tackles romantic love between all forms, it does get pretty serious. Initially, especially when I saw bits and pieces of the anime ages ago, all I can remember is the ecchi scenes. All I can remember is the panty shots. And there are some of that.
Yeah.
Quite a lot of that, actually. And in the manga, it goes one step further and have some very minor nudity. But it's only very, very rare. But it's there.
But I think in that kind of sense, it's more sort of like a deeper exploration in terms of like human interaction with an android, with a robot, trying to find oneself through the teachings of its like of what it wants this robot, this android to do. And because this android has no direction, no operation, no function.
And to make matters even more complicated, when they talk about the side characters, it talks about someone like everything from like, can you like get married to an android? Is that android like real, like in terms of having like any emotions? Is it possible to ever compare yourself to these flawless machines almost?
Yeah.
Like all these questions which would surface after you see all the ecchi and panty shots, to me is actually quite crazy.
Yeah.
Because if it weren't for the panty shots, this would be a dead serious anime.
Yeah.
Dead serious manga. But instead, they're trying to do that as like a comedic, the ecchi stuff as like a comedic effect to sort of
just
offset.
to give you a break, yeah.
Yeah, and
but generally this is like a full portrayal of what full acceptance of robots and androids is in a society. And rather than talking about what they think about robots, it's more about what to do about love.
Right. So, Will, what do you think of the anime?
It's okay. It's decent. I think it does look dated, but the theme itself is good. I would give it a good recommendation.
26 episodes is a lot.
I think you could definitely watch this over a course of time and find enjoyment out of it.
The manga are 8 volumes with 88 chapters, and I read the 20th anniversary edition omnibus, which is like 2 volumes per omnibus. And I have to say that it's like an 8 out of 10 for me. Like like
it's a solid
read. It's a solid recommendation.
Yeah.
And I feel that they do touch on these kind of heavy subjects, but they don't go like that crazy in depth to it, but enough for you to think about for sure.
Yeah. So that is like one like clear example of full or like mostly partial acceptance of robots and androids within human society. There's a lot of other shows that are like that. Like, I mean, for example, like the biggest ones, right? Ghost in the Shell. Literally everybody is either a robot, an android, or like has like
or cyborg
or robotic arms. Yeah, right.
Exactly.
Like cyborgs. We won't need to go too far into it because we've done that before. But if you haven't watched Ghost in the Shell, Standalone Complex,
what are you doing?
Society, like, just watch them.
Just watch it.
Arise. Don't watch 2045.
Okay, so the second show that we're going to talk about, which I have watched, is called Time of Eve. And Time of Eve is originally a 6-episode ONA, but I don't know where you can find it. But it is then, I think Kickstarter turned it into a movie. Like, they got Kickstarted and turned into a movie. And the movie is about, like, 1 hour 45. And it's quite interesting because in this world, robots... Oh, in this case, I should say androids. Androids are very, like, blank stares, emotions, doesn't have any expression. But... And they also have this, like, halo on top of their head to indicate that they are androids. And then now you have the main MC, who is... a kid in high school, and one day he stumbles across this coffee shop, and then he goes in, and the coffee shop I think is called Time of Eve, basically, And once he goes in the coffee shop, he realizes certain things are kind of weird, which is mainly in the coffee shop, androids and humans are treated as equal. And the halos that are on top of androids disappear. So you technically don't know the person that you're talking to in the coffee shop is either a human being or an android. And in these circumstances, you get androids who are very, expressive, that talk and like have personality. Then when they leave, or when like a main character actually sees one of these androids in real life, like the android just walks past the main character. There is just no, like, as if like there was no association whatsoever. But then all of a sudden back in the coffee shop, they're like, oh yeah, sorry about that, like whatever. And it talks about love, relationships, human android relationships, android relationships. Can machines have souls and feelings? And it is a very, very good movie. I give it a solid recommendation.
Very nice.
Will, you didn't watch it, but I think it's definitely worth your time.
Right. Yeah. I think like if I get around to actually watching movies at some point, then I will. I know there's lots of movies I should watch. I can't believe the Heavens Feel all 3 movies are on Netflix now.
Yep.
Gotta watch that shit.
Gotta watch that shit.
Yeah. So we talked about like having full or mostly partial acceptance of robots and androids. We talked about how robots and androids are essentially used as like essential caregivers or primary sidekicks for humans. What about like the extreme opposite of robots are just hated? They're the enemy. There's one that I've been watching that I absolutely really like and I want to talk about. And also probably give it as a strong recommendation too. The anime, also, which also has a manga, is called Inuyashiki. So Inuyashiki is, where do I go about this? It features an old man. Now his old man is old, tired. He's just found out he's got terminal cancer, and he's got an end date. He, however, lives a life where work is mundane. His family doesn't love him. He just doesn't seem to really get all that much out of life anymore. So he decides, oh, I'm going to go out for a walk. He manages to find a dog, adopts him, and then he goes out further for a walk. He has a breakdown, and all of a sudden, a meteor just crashes into Earth, killing him. But it's not just any meteor. It's actually an alien meteor. And as soon as it crashes into him, the aliens realize, oh shit, we accidentally killed something. Quick, we need to fix his body. We need to rebuild him. And they end up rebuilding him so that he is, from top to bottom, a full-on robot, full-on android. His organs, his brain, everything has been replaced with circuit boards and gears and just hydraulics. He's now a full-on android. And he continues to go on.
Wouldn't be a cyborg technically?
Well, he doesn't have. Well, he's no longer human though. He's no longer got any human parts whatsoever.
Oh, okay. I mean, I obviously think that this is fine to recommend and everything.
Yeah.
I'm just like trying to clarify. Like, oh, okay, so is he technically a
again?
cyborg?
That's where that line is. Right?
Oh, I see.
That line. See. It's like because I remember like, there's loads of shows where it's like you could have everything replaced, but then you still have your brain. So you still have some semblance of a human there. But then when you take that brain out and you replace it with something else, are you robot, android, cyborg? Again, line super thin. So he goes about his day, right? Inuyashiki goes about his day. However, he didn't. He also remembered that there was another kid that was on that specific spot where he died, and he also became a robot. Now, the two of them lived 2 separate lives. They start finding out that they're robots. They find all these new powers, new abilities they have, and they go about their own way. I think like, if we talked about, like, for example, I have to use it, which is like the alignment of lawful good and chaotic evil.
Yeah, it's not like we're going to talk about it at some point in the very near future.
Again,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
So Inuyashiki is a lawfully good person in that he knows he has all these superpowers. It's again the whole Ben Parker thing, right, from Spider-Man. Great power, great responsibility, and he takes that to his heart. Like, he literally does everything he can. Where it's like he can hear that there is a fire somewhere, and he rescues a family from the fire, from the burning building. Or there's a car crash, and the car's about to blow up. He goes and saves them. So he'll fly around the city, do whatever he can, but he also tries to lay low. He doesn't want anyone to know that he's a robot because he lives in fear that if people found out he was a robot, that they would fear him. They would be scared of having him around. Right? It's like imagine you see all of a sudden this normal human being and out pops like a jetpack or like a turret gun out of his arm. You freak the fuck out. And that's what he felt. That's what he feared. So he wanted to very, 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 very low.
Okay, so I think I know where this is going, but please continue.
Right. So for every lawful good, there's got to be a chaotic evil.
For every hero, there needs to be a villain, right?
Right.
And who's the villain?
You can't have your Batman without your Joker.
Yeah, and in this case, it's that other guy, right?
Yes.
That turned into a robot. And
essentially, they're built the same. They both have like the same components, the same weapons, the same. Basically, everything is the same. Except his motive is very, very different because now that he's
wrecked shit.
Now that he's reached this level of existence where he knows he is stronger and more, they're practically indestructible.
Right.
Right. Guns and bullets like don't do shit to him.
Right.
So he goes around on a massacre and just decides, you know what? I'm just gonna walk into someone's house and blow your brains out.
Okay. Right. And do stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's like the most nicest good person versus the most evil villainous person.
I have this power. I'm going to use it to save people. Or I have this power. Everyone below me is weak. I will eliminate everyone to show that I am the best in the world.
I mean, it is that thing where,
he's purging weakness is what he is.
Right. It's like the gun can use to protect your family or you can use it to do robbery. The pen can be used
I hate to say it, but it's like if you put a gun in a good guy's hand, they will do good things.
Right.
The whole point is like we're not advocating the use of guns here, by the way. Like very, very clearly guns are bad. But in this case, in this anime, it's very much humans are weak compared to robots and androids. So as a robot or an android yourself, do you choose to save them or do you choose to destroy them? And that's the duality.
Don't blow my cover.
Hey.
Don't blow my cover, man. Okay.
That's that weird duality there where it's like you have both sides of the spectrum and you just see like episode to episode, one guy doing good, the other guy doing bad. It's a ridiculous show. It's great. The opening is pretty decent as well. I quite like it. It's a fairly recent show too. I think it came out in 2018. So it's
fall of 2017.
Okay, close enough.
Close enough.
So really good show. I highly recommend it. It's only 11 episodes too.
It is only
11
episodes.
Quite a fast read. Quite a fast watch.
I mean, you could read it. It's based on a manga.
And both of them are actually like it's 10 volumes from the manga, and as I've heard, the adaptation's quite faithful. So depending on what your favorite medium is, whether it's watching anime or reading manga, go ahead, choose either one, and you will be fine.
Now, this mangaka who wrote Inuyashiki also wrote, I think, and also drew a very, very well-known other series called Gantz. And if you know anything about Gantz, you know that it is balls-to-the-wall crazy, super bloody, super gory, just explicit shit everywhere. And it seems to me, because I did not watch Inuyashiki or read it.
But you know damn well who did it.
Exactly, so I know what's up. Do they actually even talk about, like, who made them?
In terms of, like, exploring, like, who made the road? No.
Exactly. In Gantz, they kind of do the same thing where you don't, like guys, don't like, as in like the readers or the viewers, don't worry about where this comes from. Just enjoy the ride. Just accept.
It's exactly what they do in Ishiki as well. Literally, guy goes for a walk, dies, wakes up. Now he's a fucking immortal robot. It's also pretty funny too that one of the characters is a really big Gantz fan. Like his room was just littered with Gantz posters, and I was just like,
self-promotion.
I was like, what's it? Oh, that's why. Okay, now that makes sense. But no, I highly recommend watching Inuyashiki.
All right. The next manga that I will be talking about hopefully will get an anime adaptation. There's rumors that it is in development. It is Pluto, is the manga name. Now, I just realized that up till now, Will and I have not mentioned probably one of the most famous androids in Japanese anime history, which is Astro Boy.
Yep.
So sorry about that. I'm guessing some listeners might be like yelling at us.
Chairs, like, how dare you forget about Astro Boy?
But fret not, because I did not. Pluto is a spin-off of the Astro Boy series. And it stars not Astro Boy, although he does show up, and in this case he is called Atom because his original name was called Atom, not Astro Boy. Stars, I can never pronounce the name correctly. Gesicht. Gesicht. Anyways,
it's a German name.
It's a German name, and this person is a Europol.
Yeah. For all the Germans out there, if you
sorry,
name,
I'm sorry.
Es tut mir leid.
So this character is an android, and he is one of 7 robots that are the most advanced android or robot in human history. And at the same time, he works for Europol as a detective. And the whole manga series talks about how there is this thing, person, machine, whatever it is, that is trying to kill each of the 7 most advanced robots in existence, one by one by one. And it is Geshit's ability, like his deduction and his, like, it's a mystery to figure out who or what is causing all these robots to die and get murdered. And it's interesting because in this society, it is fully integrated. As in, these androids, like, Geshit has...
C'est gut.
is not good.
Is nicht gut.
He has a wife. And they don't have kids, but they have relationships. You see people who, like, androids that care for a bunch of children as their primary and sole caretaker. You get androids that look like human beings, and then you get robots that look exactly like how you would imagine a robot being. And then there's also a rogue kind of human faction that doesn't want human equal rights for robots. And then they talk about stuff like international law for robots and having equal rights, and it's very, very interesting. And the mangaka for Pluto, is probably one of the more well-known old-school mangakas in existence.
Holy crap. The guy has got a portfolio.
The person, I just need to say 2 titles, among many others, but I'll just say 2. The first one is 20th Century Boys, and the second one is called Monster. Now, if you have not heard of any of these 2 series, and even if you like anime actually, you should watch or read Monster. It is probably one of the most important manga series of all time. And the anime is exceptionally well done, albeit a bit slow-paced, but the manga is also very slow. In the same way, the manga for Pluto is also very slow. I think it was like 10 volumes? And I read it in like omnibus.
Are the chapters quite chunky as well?
Very chunky. Very, very chunky.
Because for the most part, like on average, like an anime chapter, a manga chapter is like 25 to 30 pages. Some of them could be longer. It could be 50. I know, for example, like JoJo, like because of each chapter, each volume only having like 3 or 4 chapters, the chapters could be anywhere from 70 to even 80 pages long. Like, is that how it reads for Pluto?
There's only 65 chapters.
Over 10 volumes.
8 volumes. I made a mistake.
So yeah, that's okay. That's still chunky.
But that each chapter is very. It's not like your shonen, like 20 pages. It's like 50. It's like Attack on Titan.
Yeah.
Each volume has 4 chapters, but each chapter is like, 80 pages.
Yeah, same with JoJo.
With JoJo as well. So Pluto is really, really good because, especially if you like Astro Boy, a lot of characters are either reimagined or actually show up, and it is just crazy.
You know, like the level of thematic depth that Naoki Urasawa, the mangaka for Pluto, in terms of like you've read Monster or watched Monster, you've read 20th Century Boys, in terms of like how deep and thematic those go, in terms of how deep this rabbit hole goes, like, do you feel that Pluto is comparable?
Yes.
Right.
It is so hardcore.
There you go.
Like, if there is any show that is, or any manga that is like philosophical, but also if I think about it, like in Monster, very crazy stuff is touched upon and happens. But if I were to summarize it all in like one sentence, it's actually doesn't sound that interesting,
No.
but it is super interesting.
It's super ideological, philosophical, like thriller-esque. It's a very good manga.
And Pluto is that as well. And I really hope that a lot of people check it out, or if not, hopefully the anime adaptation that is long rumored, because I think that they did announce that there would be an anime adaptation, but that was in 2017. Yeah, exactly. Huh.
I mean, the manga like sold fairly well. I mean, like 8.5 million as of a couple of years ago, close to 10. That's, I mean, if you think about the guy who's also done 20th Century Boys as well as Monster, right? Like,
Yeah,
stellar.
Viz Media, I think, is the publisher.
Yep. So you can easily pick that shit up.
So, Will, what other ones have you got?
So we talked about like different levels of acceptance. We talked about what it means to be accepted, to be loved, to want to love, or also to hate having robots and androids in society. What about if robots and androids were the only things left in society? I wanted to talk about a show called Casshern Sins, or according to the voice actors in the show, Casshern Sins.
Now, I need to take some credit for this, which is even though I only watched one episode, I wrote this down as a show that we might want to check out. And then Will checked it out on a whim and really loved it.
It's a very good show. So the thing is, right, it's a little bit difficult to talk about robot themes within this show because of the fact that humanity doesn't exist anymore. Instead, now the next level of existence is just robots and androids. So that itself, then, like if we're talking about robot to robot, android to android, is there any different from like the different the interactions, the interpretations, and perspectives of robots according to humans and humans according to robots? Funny enough, those elements still exist. So it follows the central character, like the titular character, Casshern or Casshern. I have to pronounce it Casshern because that's the only way they pronounce it. He is essentially full-blown android, looks human as hell because everything else is pretty robotic. They all have like their gears and valves and pipes all showing. And what's happened in this show is they don't really explain what's happened yet, but the Earth is dying. As if there wasn't very clear that because there's no sign of humanity left, even the robots are slowly dying out. And they die to this thing called the rust. And what happens is because now there's no more sun, there's no more life on Earth, there's no way to improve and to maintain oneself, that the body parts of a robot slowly die out. And then you rust away, and then you no longer have life. Not for Casshern or Casshern. Casshern is completely fine because he is a state-of-the-art and is pretty much, on appearance, human. Not a single blemish, not a single scratch. In fact, if he was to get scratched, he would auto-heal. So that's where like the interpretation and the acceptance of robots is different compared to if it was like a human and a robot, because the other robots fear him because he looks so human, because he is so beautiful and unblemished. And there's also this whole thing about hold on a second. This is the guy that led to the demise of robots. This is the guy who brought on the rust.
Also, his uniform is white.
Yeah.
And everything else is not white. Let's just put it that way.
It's black, brown, and red. Or gray. Like, he is like the brightest thing in this whole Earth. And everyone wants to try and either kill him or eat him. Because when things get a little bit kind of chaotic, certain cultish kind of behaviors start showing up, and people start believing anything where it's like, oh, I need to eat this thing so I can gain immortality. In this case, I need to eat Casshern to become immortal. And then Casshern himself, I'm going to just go back to Casshern. Casshern, I can't do it anymore. He then starts to sort of self-identify, try and find self-identification, try and figure out what he is to the world and what he is to himself, because everyone wants to kill him, everyone wants to hate him, but he himself technically is the same as them. He is also an android. He is also a robot. But because of the fact that he is somewhat different, he is treated differently, and people want to kill him. And it's as he goes on in the story, he's more and more exploring what it is that makes him him and what he is to the rest of the robot world, and you start meeting all sorts of crazy characters. It's a great show. I mean, it's Madhouse. It was one of Young Choi's like first shows that she did, and you can see the type of artwork that she wanted to portray in the show, and it's carried over to some of the Science Saru stuff too.
It's in 2008 show,
Yeah.
so it's rather old, but
Almost got it wrong again. It's 2006. Okay, it's rather old, and you can still hear the opening theme is very 2000s.
oh my god, I watched the first episode. I was like, even the credits, like it's just like wow,
it's so
this,
upbeat and like, oh yeah, I'm about to watch some anime. Let's go. And then you watch it,
and it's like the most depressing wasteland Fallout 3 type shit.
in a way, it's almost like you ever watch those like not art house. It's like if you go to Cannes and you watch like those very very like sort of underground like European movies.
Oh, you're talking about Belle.
Yes, Belle. Yeah, I'm sure shit that if Casshern went to the Cannes, it would get an 11-minute standing ovation. Sure,
It was 14.
14. Never mind. So I'm like, yeah, Casshern Sins, I think, is definitely a good recommendation, but not in the same way where it's like it's not super action heavy. It's very very philosophical. It's very thought provoking. It's very deep. In a way, it's a show that both Jason and I like to hate on. Not really hate on, but just talk shit on. Ergo Proxy. It's a more interesting Ergo Proxy.
Don't talk about Ergo Proxy, bro.
It's
The fuck are we doing?
sorry, dude. We're just not smart enough to understand it, man.
Yeah, Will and I don't like Ergo Proxy.
We dumped them.
I genuinely gave it a shot. I watched like
Two shots.
Okay, so I rewatched Ergo Proxy because it was on Netflix. I watched 6 episodes of it, like really tried to like it. And there are things to like, but the majority of things I don't like.
Episode 3 was good, and then afterwards it was like, what happened?
Yeah.
Why does it not continue that trajectory of trying to be good, but instead it's like you show me that chart of like level of appreciation.
Yeah, and it's just like goes down.
It spikes up to 3, and then it just like slaloms all the way down to like negative.
But hey, maybe you like watching Ergo Proxy.
I mean, like it's a 7.9 on my anime list, so there's definitely a lot of people who like it.
All right. There is... Will, do you have any more shows to talk about?
No, I think those are the shows I wanted to recommend. Inuyashiki, Vivi Fluorite Ice Song, which I think you also recommend
So
too.
I think we will talk about Vivi last. So I will talk about Plastic Memories, then we'll talk about Vivi last, and then end on that. How do you think?
What do you feel about Plastic Memories? Did it make you cry?
So Plastic Memories is an anime about androids. In this...
No way. Another show about robots and androids?
Yeah, it's not like that's the whole point of this episode.
I watched one episode, so I have an idea of what the show's about,
Right.
but you watched way more than I did.
So it's in this world, androids are fully integrated with human beings in a relatively utopian society, I would say. Of course, they touch on the more darker sides later on, but in these situations, they're called giftias. Giftias? And those are the term for these androids. Now, the main character is a guy straight out of college or something and trying to find a job, and he gets a job here through his father to work for one of the Giftias's, like, the main company. And he works for the terminal service. Because, why is this important? Because these androids have a shelf life.
Imagine like you bought a hard drive and all of a sudden it just stopped working. You buy a phone and the battery can't be replaced anymore. That's essentially what happens here.
So the Giftias, these androids have a maximum lifespan of 81,920 hours. I think it's like 9 years or something. I don't know, something. It's like a certain period of time. And then afterwards, it kind of malfunctions and does not like like they like go rogue or something. So the terminal service is there to pick up Giftias that are close to their termination date. So then they can retrieve them and like reformat them or whatever before they go rogue or decay or whatever.
Yeah, dude, the retrieval like part is very very weird and like very like it's pretty fucked up. Like you're essentially watching this robot that served you for 9-10 years get a burial. Like you have to say your goodbyes, and it gets disconnected, and then like that's it. Like people have to be present as to like protect the confidentiality and private information, right?
Exactly, because once they have to the owners have to witness this. And what is, I think, very positive about this show is that it talks about not only romantic relationships, but just familial relationships between an android and a human being.
Well, another thing as well in terms of like robots too that like people don't ever really discuss, right? Death.
Right.
Like that's like you don't ever really. I mean, unless a robot is fully destroyed, these are like robots that come to the end of their service, like almost in the way that they're dying, like they're out of use through natural causes, quote unquote.
Exactly, and it is interesting and quite refreshing to see this kind of a very positive spin on relationships with androids. Now, that is pretty much the only good thing I can say about this show.
Wait, really? Was there nothing else that's redeeming and like fun?
Okay,
about the
okay.
show?
The animation does look really nice.
It looks nice.
It's really sharp. The animation looks really nice. However, the tone is all over the place because if you just watch the first episode, right?
Yeah.
Just
episode 1.
Your impression of the first episode, would you say that it is a very emotional, heartfelt episode, or at least they try?
The first half is like very like bubbly,
exactly,
right?
And the second half,
yeah, that's when it gets a little.
It's
bit
like Violet Evergarden-esque, trying to be right, like trying to be like, "Yo, cry, viewer, please cry. This is a tear-jerking moment." They really try to like convince you of crying and feeling bad and tearing up when you're supposed to, rather than showing you that you should cry.
Yeah.
Not only that, but there is a bunch of comedic gags and slice of life stuff that has nothing to do with my first impression of the first episode. I thought the first episode onwards is just going to be them retrieving all these androids and having a lot of androids to deal with the reality that he or she is about to die, and then the owners have to say farewell to them, and or like just letting go memories and all that, because it's called plastic memories, because memories malleable. Are they real? Not. So I think it tries too hard, and it is not as serious as I thought, because actually they spent I think like a third of the anime doing slice of life stuff, which is not what I thought the series would be.
Well then.
Also, there is a huge love story that I didn't think.
Are you not invested in it at all?
Nope.
Good. Okay. Because there is a love story that I'm very invested in, and that is my love for Vivi, Fluorite Eye's song. Holy shit, Jason! Thank you very much for putting me on the show. Because holy crap, it's an amazing show.
I love Vivi.
So just to give, again, we've talked about Vivi many a time, but just to give you a crash course on it.
We finally finished it.
Yes, we finally have. I cried twice. Vivi is about an android who is, essentially she's a songstress. She's an AI that is the first autonomous AI, and her main operation is to sing for an audience at an amusement park in which she services. Until one day something happens and she gets a message from the future, and she just sees death and destruction everywhere. And it turns out that she was contacted by a certain doctor from the future, and she needs to correct certain events in history that would then prevent the upcoming robot-human war.
That's 100 years in the future.
Yep. So over the course of 100 years, she does everything she needs to be able to combat against terrorist forces, to convince the higher-ups so that certain legislations don't pass, and that further restrictions are committed upon upon robots and androids. It was an emotional roller coaster,
and it is extremely action packed. The animation by Wit Studio is just jaw dropping, amazing,
and it's deeply philosophical too. Because even though Vivi, as they said in the show, is the first autonomous AI. Just because she's autonomous doesn't mean that she's free. She's
Yeah.
still bound by the operation that was put upon her, which is she has to sing for her audience.
And make everyone happy.
Yeah, to make everyone happy with my singing.
And I think one thing that is very interesting about Vivi is they jump years and years and years. Like sometimes it's like 1 year, then it's like 5 years, and then sometimes it's like 40 years, you know? So it's not just like a very fixed interval of time, because literally she and her sidekick, which is a teddy bear that is from the future.
Well, an AI that inhabits teddy bear.
Yes,
Yeah.
from the future. They work together as a team, as a duo, like to prevent certain I guess singularity events.
Yeah. Essentially, like things that would help to prevent a robot uprising.
Right.
And it's super emotional. Have we talked about the music in Vivi?
Oh, so Vivi is a songstress, right? That sings. So you would like to think that the music in Vivi is really exceptional.
No, it's not just that. It's ridiculously good.
I have a Spotify playlist with all the songs from Vivi, both the orchestral and the songs that they actually sing, and it's so good.
Like the original version.
We don't skip
radio
the OP.
edits.
We don't skip the OPs, right?
No.
We don't, no.
You
can't.
No.
You can't.
Yeah. Oh my god, it's so goddamn good. I implore every one of you, if you have not started or finished Vivi Fluorite Eye Song, please finish it.
I mean, I think we'll recommend the shows that he talked about, and I also recommend the shows I talked about. Even like Plastic Memories, I think a lot of people will enjoy that show. It's just not what I thought it was, ultimately. That being said, though, I think the show that Will and I think Will would agree, that if there's one show that you need to watch, or one manga or whatever, it has to be Vivi. All the other stuff are good, but Vivi is really exceptional in my mind.
You see the full spectrum of what it means to be a robot or an android, what it means to live and work with a robot and android, and then what it means for robots and androids to be accepted within human society.
And whether or not they have emotions, whether or not they have
It's just
ultimate purpose, relationships of all sorts,
The 3 laws as well.
3 laws come into play. So it's like crazy.
It's as comprehensive a robot android anime as you can get. Every other one we've talked about, like Shiki, like Pluto, like Chobits, Casshern Sins, they all do really well with what they're trying to portray, and they're all good recommendations in their own end. But Vivi is just like de facto. If you just had one show you wanted to watch, 13 episodes, fuck it, dude.
and it's like 2 seasons ago, so it's like as modern as can be, really.
It's literally 2021. Which studio is just never fail, man. They're always good.
And
people say things about Cabaneri. I like Cabaneri, so
yeah, I like Cabaneri as well. And also, Vivi is written by the guy who wrote ReZero, and Will and I don't care for ReZero at all.
And no, just because we like Vivi doesn't mean we're gonna start rewatching ReZero again.
But I have to give props to the author, because Vivi is really written very well. Everything is all condensed in 13 episodes, and it's complete. There's probably no season 2.
Yeah, clap. Congratulations.
And it's a
story.
full story from beginning to end, and it's great. It's more than great.
Like the shows we discussed earlier, they're easily like 8, maybe 9 out of 10. This one is like
10 out of 10.
10 out of 10, no matter.
Yeah.
Like, no way looking at it elsewhere. Like it's just that good.
All right, so Will, let's just summarize all the shows and mangas that we talked about. So the number 1 show that we'll recommend is Vivi, Fluoride's Eye Song. You should check that out. Then for Will, he talked about Chobits, the anime, specifically. He talked about Inuyashiki, the anime. He talked about Casshern Sins, the anime. You should check all of them out. I can vouch for all of them except for Inuyashiki, just because I haven't seen Inuyashiki, but sounds like it's good.
Basically, Chobits for the romance, Inuyashiki for the action and violence, and then you have Casshern Sins for the ideology, psychology, philosophy, the more sort of like deep, big brain kind of stuff.
And then Vivi for all of that.
Vivi is just everything.
Right. So I read Chobits, I think it's really good. Also, it deals heavily into love and romance between humans and humans, androids and robots, and androids and humans. I think it's done pretty well. Time of Eve, I think, is a very good movie that talks about what it means to be human, what it means to be a robot. And Pluto, the manga, which talks about what it means to be a robot. Or can robots ever be like humans, even though they are not? Can they be on equal footings? Should law and rights apply to machines as they do with humans? And Plastic Memories, I think, is not necessarily a very deep philosophical look at robots and androids and relationships with humans, but it is a decent show that a kind of lighthearted show with random elements of grim, dark, and tear-jerking moments.
That's a pretty exhaustive list, right? We got some manga, and we got some anime series, we got movies, we got some stuff from the 90s, stuff from like literally this year. We got romance, drama, action, thriller, suspense, pretty much everything that you can think of, and they all have some really kick-ass robots.
Yeah. So that is the end of our episode. Do you want me to do the housekeeping now, Will?
Let's roll with it, man.
All right. So you can always reach us through our email at gapalette@gmail.com. That's GAPALETTE@gmail.com, all lowercase, all one word. You can also contact us on Twitter using the handle @PaletteGood. That's capital P and capital G, all one word. We have a Facebook page at www.facebook.com/PaletteGood, capital P, capital G, all one word. We have a website. We have a website, and we encourage you to check it out. You can visit our website at www.goodanimepalette.com, all lowercase, all one word. You can also join us on Discord. The invite link is in the show description. And also, we have a My Anime List Club. The invite link is also in the show description. Alternatively, you can just email us, and we'll send the invites to you, no problem. Music credits for this episode. Our intro music is Glitterati by Fox Morrow. Our break music is Up and Down by Toby Tranter. And our outro music is Sunset Dew by Lupus Nocte. Our music was provided courtesy of epidemicsounds.com. If you're interested in using Epidemic Sounds as a service, we have a referral link for you that's provided in the show description, Will. I think one of the things that I forgot to mention that I should have mentioned like way early in the beginning was that with Dragon Ball Z, Android 18, you remember Android 18, right? Her kind of journey, without trying to get into spoilers, even though Dragon Ball Z is like so old already, like what are you doing? But as in like if you don't know, then it's on you really. But her journey and her relationships with certain characters are like one of the first of those that I've seen ever. So I thought I just want to give a special
early days for sure, yeah.
Yeah. So I just want to give a special shout out to that.
One thing I do want to do as well is I want to find like some sort of like AI/machine learning program that would basically like audio analyze every single episode of the Good Anime Palette podcast, and then using like deep learning, see if they're able to create a script, like an AI automated like generated script for us to read off of and see what kind of anime podcast it would come up with, because they do that sometimes. People, I think what someone did was they fed like a bunch of different Nolan movies just to see like what kind of script came up with, and it was like actually really, really well done. I want to see like if there's any AI, any machine learning that's good enough to be able to put together a trashy Anime Palette podcast script, and then we can read it out. I think those kind of programs are very expensive, or like at least really hard and requires a lot of time to master. But hey, if anybody knows a good program that I can use, link it in the description. Link it to me on Twitter. I would definitely want to try it out.
Yeah, sure. Oh, God. So, Will, any parting last thoughts other than what you just said?
That was my parting last thoughts.
Oh, that's parting last thoughts. I'm
not like, programmed to think beyond my current capabilities.
All I have to say is my ultimate purpose on this planet is to spread the gospel of weebdom to the world, of anime and manga, the culture of anime and manga, and I seem to be doing okay so far.
Weebs, arise.
Error 404 does not compute.
Right.
All right, so that is the end.
The Weeb robot uprising. Let's go.
Okay, do you... okay. Actually, this reminds me. Let's end on this note, which is... Okay, look, it's really hard to say, Will, but would you ever have a romantic relationship with an android?
Probably not.
Really?
I personally don't think I would be able to.
So I thought about it, and I actually think that I probably would. It depends on the complexity and sophistication of the technology and stuff like that. But
right,
I kind of feel like I would at least consider it. I don't know if I would
just to say that you tried it.
Or I mean, it's very hard to say. For example, you and I grew up in a society where the internet didn't exist for a period of time.
Yeah,
and then there are people that were born, and there are adults now that know nothing about the days before the internet. So, to them,
I mean, have you ever shown like a teenager or like
a floppy disk,
and it just blows their mind?
Yeah,
like that's the level of advancement we're at now.
Right. So maybe that I have all these preconceived notions of androids, but maybe if I were in the world of Chobits, I would not bat a second eye.
Yeah, no, I think that, but that's when we achieved singularity, right? When things literally are even across the board, where robots and androids are just robots and androids. We don't even think twice about why they exist.
But whether or not future Jason or alternate timeline Jason will ever date an android, my love for Will and my love for you guys, the listeners, will never fade.
Yeah. Thanks, robot Jason.
Yep.
Does not compute.
This does compute.
I'm imagining now, at some point, just literally, our jobs will be taken by AI, where there's going to be someone that's like, "Oh, I've parsed every single episode of JP. Now you don't need Jason and Will anymore. Here's just an amalgamation of code to read the podcast." Don't fucking do it. Don't terminate us.
The cake is a lie.
Yes.
All right.
Well, we appreciate you listening to us mumbo and jumbo about robots and androids.
I had quite a bit of fun.
But please do check out the shows we mentioned. They're extremely good shows, particularly Vivi. I also really think you should really check out Inuyashiki. Outside of Vivi, what else would you recommend? One more show out of the list. Yeah, if you watched Vivi, out of that list, would you say read Pluto? Would you say read Chobits?
I would say Chobits.
Okay.
Just because I think the android love thing is a more somewhat interesting topic.
Cool. All right. Well, listeners, go ahead, share some love, go love some robots. We'll catch you soon.
Peace.